Hi, I'm Kit Bell, and today I'm going to explore making tools for the gel plate. I like to create simple tools like stamps and stencils to make interesting prints to use in my mixed media pieces. I find it an enjoyable and important part of my creative process. So I want to make some specific tools for my Manitoba series. I would like them to be a direct response to what I saw while I was up there. This was a simple tool that I made a little while ago. It's just a toilet paper roll with some glue from a glue gun around it. And I quite like the marks that it makes on the plate when I was using that. So I was thinking of taking that idea a little bit further and making it more specific to the environment in northern Manitoba. So I was thinking of something that would create a pattern similar to this. The idea of these being the tree trunks and some branches between them, but being loose, not too representational, something along that line. And, this roughly fits my toilet paper roll. It's not a huge idea, it's just a little sketch of an idea. So I got my glue gun out, and I got to warn you, I'm not very good with my glue gun. There we go. And that's one side of that little tree trunk. The real problem with things getting representational on me when I'm trying to, I find it more interesting for me right now to stay away from things that are quite representational. So it's a bit of a struggle. As soon as I think of doing something with tree trunks or rocks or something like that, the next thing I know, I'm thinking of the way that I used to work with them. And but that just doesn't interest me anymore. So it is a little bit of a struggle for me. Now this could be kind of tight. I have to keep reminding myself too that this glue is hot. Now I've got a little one there and I've got a bigger one there, so I'm going to have a medium-sized one over here. Oh, that is quite warm. Okay, so now that I've got the trunks, now I kind of want some branches in here. Just different kinds of angles and levels of wispiness. More to define what is the space between and what is the actual trunk, because otherwise it's going to be really ambiguous. Not that that's a bad thing. Okay. I'm sure I'll get people commenting that are much better at this than I am, going, don't do it that way. That's not the way you use a glue gun. But, you know, I'm an artist. I just kind of bumble my way through. There. Okay, so I'm going to leave this one aside to dry and see how that works out. I wanted to make a cardboard stamp for use on my gel plate to give me some of the feeling that I had when I was in northern Manitoba. So I just drew up this little thing from one of my photographs with some trunks and way too many branches. So if I'm going to make a cardboard stamp, I'm going to simplify this a little bit. So I have a little piece of cardboard. It's just out of packaging. I'm not quite sure what it came from. For me, it has a nice spacing between the corrugations. I don't want it to be too mechanical and too busy. So using this as a base, I'm just going to put in a few trunks here and perhaps a few leaves. I want to keep it, or pardon, not leaves, branches. I want to keep it pretty simplified because I don't want to have to do a lot of detailed cutting. So I'm just kind of planning out. And of course, these are just pencil marks, so if I change my mind, I can always change them. Wouldn't even bother erasing them. I just write right over them. So I want a fat trunk and then maybe a thinner trunk. And the trees up there aren't straight. They get bent, they get blown. So I want to make sure I get some bends and things and crooks in them. And this one should have a couple of branches as well. When I cut this, I'm just going to be cutting out the negative bits, so not necessarily where the lines cross. So I've got chubby, a little less chubby. I think I'm going to put a fairly large one in next. And then I'll put in one more less chubby one on the end. And I don't want a lot of branches, probably won't use that. This one could maybe come up more this way. In a way, it's just kind of connecting the shapes and defining, you know, what's in front of what. I have a feeling that's going to be lots. After all, this is a corrugated stamp, so not a lot of detail is going to be required. So now that I've got the basic idea, I'm going to use a very sharp Exacto knife, or whatever they're called these days. Oh, they're still called Exacto. That's great. And it really helps if this thing is sharp. And what I want to do is I want to cut through the top layer of the cardboard. So I'm kind of being a little careful here not to cut down too deeply. I want to be able to peel this top layer of cardboard off after I dampen it. Kind of goes clunkety clunkety clunk. And I think there's a certain amount of simplification that just happens automatically when you're cutting. You know, you can't get too fussy with it. Basically, I'm just cutting along the edges of the negative shapes. So I'm not going to actually cut in between where one shape meets another. I'm just going to cut the hole that's left behind them. Oh, that's been cut already. Cardboard is such an inexpensive material. You can make as many of these as you want for next to nothing. You just have to be careful about who's in charge of the recycling in your household so that stuff doesn't get thrown away before you have a chance to pick through it. There's a lot of really interesting little simple stencils or stamps that I've done this way that have just been simple geometrics, circles, rectangles, triangles. I'm trying here not, oh, I didn't want that piece. Oh, well, that's fine. I can simply take that piece out. I'm trying not to get too representational here. I want this to be fairly suggestive rather than too dictating what the image is. But, you know, cardboard's a fairly rough and ready material. It kind of takes care of the over-realism part for you. There we go. So I think I managed to cut along all of those lines. Not a big problem if I've missed one because I'd be able to fix it. Next comes in a very handy little tool. But if you don't have this, don't sweat it. Just use a brush and a little jar of water. That's all you need. This is a water brush, a Holbein water brush as it happens. But I just find it really handy for this step. What I want to do is wet the areas that I want to remove so that it dissolves the glue and it makes them peel off really easily. This is not a quick process. You have to get them wet, let them sit for a while, try it, probably wet them again. It may take you a while to get that stuff off, but I recommend waiting until it's soft and ready and re-wetting it as many times as necessary rather than trying to pull it off. You just won't get very clean cuts. However, I mean, that has its appeal too. I've done that, torn it off in an uneven way, and sometimes that can be quite interesting as well, but not what I'm after today. So this is simple with the water brush. I just give it a bit of a squeeze. It gushes out a bunch of water, and then I just spread it around. You can start to see some of the pattern here that's being created. It's going to be interesting to see what the effect of the corrugated cardboard behind this will be when I print it, because I'm kind of hoping that in a very loose way it suggests more trees in the background, and maybe it will. Otherwise, I could just cut this out of any material that I wanted to use as a stamp. Okay, and then while I'm here with my little water brush, I'm just going to go back to the beginning. This will probably take 2 or 3 coats of water to really get it to soften up and come off well. So it's one of those things where you just have yourself a cup of something interesting, you know, let it soak in for a little bit, give it another little bit of water, have another cup of whatever. There, I'll let that sit for a little bit. So we're back. This is pretty soggy. I'm hoping this will lift off. Sometimes it works best if you start from a corner or, oh, there we go. Yeah. So if it's been wet and if the glue is dissolved properly, you should just be able to peel a section off like that. And you might need to go in with your knife and just make sure that some of those cuts that go across the ridges have gone far enough through. As you can see, I'm having a bit of problems with that one. Once it's soggy, it's very hard to make any more cuts on it. So a tree might lose a limb, but that's not the worst thing that can happen. In a forest, there's lots of limbs. Some of the tools that I create become, quite interesting just in and of themselves. And, maybe there'll be a new way of using these tools in artwork down the road. Oops, there goes a limb. Got blown off in a storm. Lots of storms in northern Manitoba. Oh my goodness, there was some doozies while we were there. My little dog didn't like that at all. So as you can see, when it's wet enough, it peels quite well. So it's just important to keep trying it, and if it doesn't peel well, then just give it some more water. There. It'll be really interesting to see how that prints up. I would leave it, it's quite damp in a lot of places, so I would leave it to print until that is dried, just so that it has a chance to, become a little sturdier. Now when I drew this up, I kind of liked the drawing, but it was a little bit more intricate than I really could achieve on a cardboard stamp, which was fine. I simplified the drawing for that, but I really did quite like it. So I also made some stencils out of it. So I drew up the rough idea. I used some tracing paper to mark out just the negative shapes, so no lines crossing over other lines. Once I'd done that, I scanned that in and did some work in it with Photoshop, and then used my Cricut cutter to cut out some stencils. And my Cricut cutter is much more patient than I am. I could never be bothered to cut something that is this intricate, but it allows me to do that. So I'm also going to be playing around with this stencil. And oh, did I mention that if you have a Cricut cutter and you create something that's going to be a stencil, your Cricut cutter can cut it in a variety of sizes quite easily. It's just a little setting. So basically, out of this one drawing that I did, I've gotten some stencils cut out of Dura-lar, and I've also got my cardboard stamp idea. So I'm going to be printing these up next and seeing just what they look like. They'll each give me quite different results. In part 2 of this video, I'll be creating some prints with the gel plate using these tools. Here's a sneak peek at some of the results. To watch part 2, click on the video thumbnail on the screen. To see the types of mixed media pieces that I create with the gel prints, click on the playlist.